Chapter 9, A Real Nightmare. My dad is really good at taking care of his things. Maybe it is the one of the rules of being a gentleman, but I don't really know. I can't remember. Take care of your things, my dad likes to say, and your things will take care of you. He takes such good care of his car, Louise, for example, that she will probably run for a third geological age, although she already has one transmission in the junkyard, which, my mom says, is the car equivalent of having one foot in the grave. My dad also takes good care of our house and our yard. He can use a hammer, he can climb a ladder, he can climb down too, usually, and he owns a power drill in a box. He takes really good care of his children too. Just look at us. A couple of weeks of scratching ourselves to death and we were practically normal again on our way back to school. So when my dad wasn't playing with his Johnny Astro, he kept it in its box and set it on top of the shelf of the highest bookcase for safekeeping. The Johnny Astro sure was amazing, even sitting in its box. I headed into the living room to look at it one last time before going to school. Johnny Astro made me very popular, my dad's voice replayed itself in my ears. Everyone wanted to play with me. Johnny Astro, I read across the box for the millionth time. Really flies, no wires, no connections. Fly your spacecraft anywhere. I stared unblinkingly. I shifted my PDK under my arm. I swallowed. Alvin, my mom yelled from the kitchen. Hurry, honey, your bus is almost here. Coming, Mom, I yelled back. But first, all I needed was a stool and to stretch until I could reach it. Johnny Astro was perfect for show and tell. Someday, my dad's low whisper filled my ears, this will be yours. Someday? I had no idea that someday would be today. Thanks, Dad, I whispered. You're the best. I even remembered my manners. Then I slid the box into a large shopping bag, and I slipped out the door. What's that? Pinky asked as soon as I got on the bus. I gasped. I could hardly believe it. I was already flickering on Pinky's radar. Johnny Astro, I said. What's Johnny Astro? The greatest toy ever made, I said. Never heard of it, said Pinky. What does it do? I'll show you at show and tell, I said. But you don't do show and tell, said Hobson. I do too, I protested. You show, but you never tell, said Sam. Sam was right. I never tell, but I was fabulous at show. I knew how to pick 'em. If something tells a story, and as long as I can reach it, and it is something I can carry without using a wheelbarrow, it is probably perfect. I've brought in all sorts of treasures. My dad's fantastic reading glasses, my mom's pearl necklace that she looks so good in, Calvin's baseball card collection, and now Johnny Astro. If this is the greatest toy ever made, you should show and tell now, said Pinky, before we get to school, or we'll never know what you wanted to say. It made perfect sense. I could hardly wait anyway. I pulled the box out of the bag. The gang read the box. All jaws dropped open. All tongues fell out. That's just the box, I said. Wait till you see it in action. I fingered the edge of the cover. Open it, Sam pleaded. Open it. I held my breath. I wanted to open it. I wanted to show the gang the most fabulous toy ever made. I couldn't wait. Whoosh! I lifted the cover. An old smell of fun and excitement filled our noses. Then whoosh! The bus rounded a corner. And we rounded in our seats. And when we all sat back up, Johnny Astro didn't look the same. There were a few pieces missing. They were not in the box. They were not in the bag, or in the aisle, or under the seats. They were nowhere to be seen. I was not even sure which pieces were missing, but there were a few empty spaces in the plastic package where they should have been. Oh no, I cried. My dad's going to kill me. The noise of the bus went round and round. It was so loud that my voice got lost. No one turned around. Even the driver's eyes, which usually lift in her mirror whenever there is an extraordinary outburst, did not shift. I swallowed. I blinked. I did my best not to cry. The wheels on the bus went round and round. I bounced up and down. But then a tear rolled down my cheek, then another, and another. Before I knew it, I was crying full blast. Crying is really great. Everything is better afterward, except when the next stop is school. And when you walk into class, you find a substitute teacher. Alvin Ho, called the sub. She was taking attendance, which is where most of my troubles usually begin with subs. I opened my PDK. I needed an escape route. Alvin, the sub called again. Here, answered Flea. You are Alvin Ho? Asked the sub. No, ma'am, I'm Flea, said Flea. That's Alvin. She pointed at me. The sub looked at Flea, and then at me over the top of her glasses. He can answer for himself, she said. No, he can't, said Flea. Why not? He can't, said Flea. He's Alvin Ho. The sub's eyebrows arched like two unconnected bridges. I will have no funny business in my classroom today. Is that clear? Said the sub. Flea nodded. Then her lips curled in, which meant that she had more to say. Alvin talks normal at home, Flea continued, but at school he only talks with his eyes. Oh? Just watch his eyes, said Flea. I rolled my eyes, not on purpose. They just rolled on their own like a couple of those loose pearls from my mom's necklace the time I borrowed it for show and tell. Oops, said Flea. Is this a joke? Asked the sub. No, ma'am, Flea shook her head. The sub looked puzzled. No one mentioned a special needs student. Alvin's not special, Flea explained matter of fact. He just doesn't speak in school. The sub fixed her gaze on Flea. Then she locked her gaze on me. It meant that I needed to be on my best behavior. Fortunately, I've had lots of practice in good behavior. I knew what to do. I kept my eyes low. I kept my hands in plain sight. I stayed in my seat. Then show and tell began. Jules showed a pox scab. Ah, that's nothing, said Eli. So then Eli showed his. It was redder than Jules's. But it wasn't redder than Hobson's, which is crimson. But that was nothing compared to Isha's, which was practically still oozing. Then everyone began raising their shirts and lowering their pants to see who had the biggest and ugliest scab of all. It was fabulous. Then the substitute said that she had enough of the scabs, but some of us had taken off so much of our clothing by then that it took a while to get it all back on. Then the dreaded moment came. Alvin, said the sub, do you have a show and tell? I froze. I avoided eye contact. I held my breath. I sucked in my gut. I clutched my PDK. His show and tell met with some misfortune on the bus this morning, said Flea helpfully, so it can't be shown. Misfortune, said the sub. She gave me the stare that said I wasn't yet finished with misfortune. So slowly, I pulled out the box. Johnny Astro, gasped the sub. I had one of these. It's the best toy in the world. It really flies. You can fire it up, send it into orbit, and bring it down again. It is absolutely spectacular. The class went silent. No one moved. No one even breathed. The sub got very quiet. She wiped her eyes. Nothing else like it was ever made, she sighed. Then she smiled at me, and I smiled back just a little. Maybe it is even a gentleman's rule to smile back when a lady smiles at you, but I don't really know. I can't remember. For a sub, I guess she's okay. As for show and tell, it was the best thing I had ever brought in. Everyone wanted to play with me at recess. We'll get it up in the air in no time, said Pinky, carrying the box out to the playground. I'll hold it while you fix it. I nodded. Then we lifted off the cover. The missing pieces were back, but they were wrecked. I found them in the back of the bus, said Flea, and put them back in there for you. Don't worry, said Eli, whose father fixes cars. I can fix anything. My dad showed me how. I can do origami, said Sam. I'll make you a new balloon. Here are some Band-Aids, said Eli, peeling a dirty one from each elbow. And I've got spray paint at home if you want to come over after school, said Naya. I opened my PDK. There were instructions for surviving practically every disaster except a Johnny Astro disastro. That's the problem with PDKs. You never know what you're missing until you are missing it. Alvin, said Flea, putting a hand on my shoulder, people will think you were careless, but you really weren't. It was an accident, said Naya. Yeah, an accident, echoed Eli. It's a good thing it wasn't your dad's. My heart sank like a dead battery, and I don't think I really needed to tell you what happened next.